everybody. Bonjour. This is so exciting. We are here to talk Emily in Paris. This is the series that's on Netflix, and it's from creator Darren Star, who did Sex and the City. And as we're here, we're going to give our spoiler analysis of the show and first season. And I am film critic Rachel Wagner, and I am so grateful to have as my guest Kristen Maldonado is here to help me. Kristen, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to dive into this Parisian world with you.
Yeah, we can't go to Paris, even though I submitted my passport in the first week of March, and then I finally got it in August, at the end of August. I finally got it. I'm like, oh well, my goodness. Now that I can't go anywhere, right? It's fine. They took their time, but maybe someday we can be like Emily and go to Paris.
Yeah, well, I actually, I've always been fascinated by Paris and, the food and the beauty there. And I actually got to go last September, and it was like, I felt like I was in my element, which is weird because normally I'm really bad at directions. I'm like, I don't know how to get anywhere. I felt like I knew where to go in Paris, which makes no sense because I've never been there. But I just felt like, wow, this is my place. I like trying to speak French and trying to get my check in French and, attempting. It was really fun. And I would love to go back, but just made me feel like we were traveling there, watching the food and all the visuals of Paris that they showed. I was like, wow, this is gorgeous.
Yeah. I think the escapism is probably the strongest part about this show, and Lily Collins, I think, is really good. But yeah, getting, especially right now, to get to just have something light and fluffy and, and get to escape into Paris, I think really hit the spot.
Yeah, that's what I just need now. Like that escapism, that fluffy, fun series that you're just like, yes, feel joy.
Yeah, I haven't been to Paris, but I have been to France. It was a long, long time ago. I went when I was 14. I went to Europe with my dad and my sister, and we spent most of the time in Germany. But we went to Prague, but we did go to just a little part of France. We were actually there on Bastille Day.
Oh,
and
nice.
And I just remember I thought the food was so good. It was delicious.
Yes.
And the last time I went to Europe was in what was that, 2016, I think. I went to Spain.
Oh, nice.
My sister was living there at the time, and so I figured I love going to the beach. I don't care where it is. And so I went to Spain, and we ended up going to the beach, I think, almost every single day that we were there, because that's part of Spain she was living in Valencia.
Oh,
so that was really fun. I didn't love the food in Spain that much. It wasn't as good as other places in Europe, but still it was super fun. And yeah, like I said, I feel like that is the strength of the show, is sort of the escapism. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I literally was just like, I want to move here after watching the show.
Yeah, you want to get a croissant.
Yeah.
Overall, what were your overall thoughts about the show? Did you feel like it was a strong first season?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was really fun. I loved the fashion and the food and the locations, like we mentioned. I really liked the positivity that Lily Collins' character had. She's kind of just gung-ho about everything, which is fun. And I think that they did a really great job of introducing us to other characters besides her that all had their own goals and things they were trying to do. And it wasn't just everyone's trying to help propel Emily forward. It was other goals, and we got to see their aspirations as well, which I really enjoyed. I will say I did think there was a little bit too much love triangles There's, I mean, I guess they're trying to play up like, the city of love, the city of lights. Like, I felt like though we kept seeing these similar looking guys like appear and disappear. And I don't know. I think that I think there could have been a little bit more kind of diversity in the space of just like, of Paris that we were following. But it was a really fun show, and I liked social media. I felt like some of it was actually relatively accurate to, shows. It's like, that's not what social media looks like at all, So I enjoyed that aspect as well.
Yeah, I had fun with the show. I thought that it did provide that escapism. I liked Lily Collins a lot. I thought that she did a really good job. I feel like the show, it could have been better, but overall it was enjoyable enough. I think to
Yeah.
be worth your time to watch. I think that I agree with you. I thought the social media was pretty well done. I mean, I think that was their way of sort of trying to modernize it and make it more I don't know, more of a, as opposed to Sex in the City, is trying to make it more, of the moment, their attempt at least. And one thing that surprised me, and I don't know if you'll agree, is I was expecting it to have more of an edge. And I felt like I was pleasantly, honestly surprised that it was pretty PG-13. It wasn't really, I mean,
Yeah.
it really, until the last couple episodes, it had a little bit of maybe what R-rated content, but hardly any.
Yeah, I think that it definitely was more tame. There were a couple
Mm-hmm.
of moments that I think, because it was so tame, there were a couple of random moments where I was
Yeah.
surprised when it did get a little bit risque.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe they needed a little better of a balance in that. But yeah, I would say it's definitely like a more tame series than you would expect from like, Sex in the City,
Yeah.
the creator of Sex in the City.
Like even something like, I think that Darren Star created, or maybe, or I think some of the same people created Lipstick Jungle for I think it was NBC,
Mm-hmm.
and that show was way more adult than this show. Like I feel like this show is fine for teenagers.
Yeah,
Yeah, no
I think
problem.
so.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of a little bit of sensuality, of course, but I don't know. It was a lot cleaner than I was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that was interesting. But one thing I think I would fault the show on is that I think the casting could have been a little bit better. Aside from Lily Collins, I felt like it was missing a little bit of oomph in the casting. Like if you compare it to something like Ugly Betty,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of a similar premise, I feel like something like this show needed like a Vanessa Williams type character.
I see that. Yeah. That was something that I actually thought of also when I was watching the show, is that it did give me like Ugly Betty vibes. I guess that whole like, trying to make it in like a big like social media or fashion or like
Yeah.
big industry like that. I actually thought, well, I liked Lily Collins. I felt like this show might have benefited from having a more Ugly Betty type of character leading it, because there was a lot of times where I felt like they were saying, "Oh, she's a fish out of water. Like she doesn't belong here. She doesn't get what it's like in Paris. She's very like she doesn't get it." Kind of thing. And they like made it
Mm-hmm.
seem like she wasn't fashionable, which she was. Like they were like, oh, she doesn't like, especially that's the scenes with that big fashion designer that they worked with that called her basic. I was like, oh, maybe this would have been a really fun show to have like a character like that, like Ugly Betty, like kind of blossoming in France and kind of like, getting by on like how smart she is in the specific topic that they're focused on, like social media, but then like trying to like figure out her, how to blossom while she's in this like different country. Um, but I will agree that I
Mm-hmm.
think what was so great about Ugly Betty is that show also had such a strong cast where like they felt like a family. So even when like Wilhelmina Slater and Mark are like kind of, the enemies at the beginning of like Betty and her boss, over time they all start to feel like a family unit in a way where like you
Mm-hmm.
just love them all together. And I did think that this show was missing that a little bit. I think they could have done more with expanding the co-workers that
Mm-hmm.
Emily worked with. They didn't really feel like they had big enough moments.
Yeah, and she didn't really have a friend in the office the way that she became friends with Daniel in Ugly Betty. Of course, you have you have so much time on that show, and this is just the first season, but
Mm-hmm.
um, she didn't really have like sort of her office pal, her office buddy, kind of a
Mm-hmm.
thing that would develop. And I don't know, I just didn't feel like Sylvie really quite did it for me as far as this kind of, a horrible boss kind of character.
I feel
And
that.
like, especially the ending, I was expecting her to be some big, because they tease it about this, about Antoine sending Emily the lingerie gift, and then that's going to be like, and that Sylvie's going to be really upset when she finds out that he sent her that.
Mm-hmm.
And there was really no real, like, I mean, I was expecting it to be sort of a end on sort of a bit of a cat fight kind of a thing, or there to be some kind of drama, particularly in that last episode, and then there really wasn't.
Yeah, I guess it could be maybe seen as like a little bit refreshing that they decided not to keep them as enemies and like,
Mm-hmm.
kind of have them like on each other's side and not having like these two women going up against each other over guy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I see what you mean. Where like there just could have been maybe like a little bit higher stakes overall, because I do think like throughout the show it was more like the fun of being in Paris, not like, oh my gosh, what's happening in this episode, oh my gosh, we gotta get to the
Yeah.
next one because whoa, like what's happening. It was just more like, oh, this is fun, I like the fashion, this beautiful space,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
than like the
it was
actual
like
story
light and
itself.
fluffy, which was fun, and I enjoyed
Mhm.
it. But like, I feel like it could have had more teeth to it. Like, if they had kind of leaned into the camp of it all, like even with the love triangle, if they kind of ended with like, oh, her being, it was a bit of a cliffhanger, but like, I was really surprised they didn't have Camille walk in on them. That would have been very like,
Yeah,
uh,
I guess they really did go against that idea of like having two women like going up, like fighting over a man. Like they really
yeah,
didn't do that. So that is kind
no,
of cool to see. And they had opportunities to do it and they chose
yeah.
not to. So that's like
Yeah,
pretty
they could have.
refreshing, but
Yeah, they could
yeah.
have definitely like like made it more campy, made it more like sort of a little bit more soap opera esque,
Yeah.
which I enjoy that. I think that's fun.
Mm-hmm.
But as it is, it was more gentle, this show, I think.
Yeah.
Hmm. And what did you think of her friend Mindy, played by Ashley Park?
Yeah, I really liked Mindy. I was excited to see. She was an example of someone that I think in a different show she would have just been supporting Emily, and like that's it. Her whole purpose would have been like, yeah, she's a nanny, but like she's really there to like pump up Emily. But
Yeah.
I like that they gave her her own storyline, and I mean, Ashley Park is a Broadway legend from Mean Girls. I was so excited to see her come in and then be able to like sing a little bit and have her character have her own backstory and her own goal of like wanting to be a singer. I thought that was really cool. I really like her a lot. I think she's very charismatic. I think she was able to turn some lines that maybe would be cheesy. Like I think she made them work. I would have liked to see even more of her. Honestly, I think that they could have, and just inserted her. I think a little bit even more into the series. What about you?
Yeah, at first I was kind of not feeling her. I don't know. I was just kind of like, she just seemed a little bit phony to me in the performance and in the character. But I agree with you. Once they kind of actually gave her something to do,
Mm-hmm.
instead of just her being an exposition character, I think it worked better, much better. And getting her to sing, of course, that was a win for
Yeah.
this series. And she did have some funny lines, I think. And I think that her and Lily had a pretty nice chemistry between
Yeah.
the two of them.
I also liked how they were able to kind of bring in her character's culture too, and
Mm-hmm.
introduce us to her family, and like kind of just see like this I don't know, just like this side of her life, like this other side of her life, at the bachelorette party, and also I think that led into sort of like Emily getting a lot of ideas. Like she got her big idea for their social media, win with the champagne. And I liked seeing those like moments connect where it was like, oh, like something's happening in life, and oh, we can use this in our social strategy or in our social ideas, which was fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that was fun. And I think they could probably even now do a lot in season two. They'll be able to do a lot more with that character,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe even do a whole episode, around her character. That would be cool. I'd like to see
Yeah.
that.
I feel like for me, a show like this really works when you have an ensemble and it's not just focused. Like I know it's called Emily in
Yeah.
Paris, but like, and
Hmm.
I think that's why Ugly Betty works too, because yes, it's about Betty, but it really becomes an ensemble, and then you feel like everyone has their moments, everyone really shines, and then they can become like this family that you're like, oh my god, I love every character, like I love
Yeah.
their dynamics together.
Well, I mean, and that was the strength of Sex in the City is that
Yeah.
it wasn't just about Carrie. It was about all the women
Mm-hmm.
in the group. And yeah, I think so. And I think that we would be nice to see, I don't know, just a little more drama. Even she goes, they have the whole outing to Camille's house, and I was expecting that to have sort of more drama about it. I mean, especially when she ends up sleeping with her brother, with Camille's brother. I don't know. That was all kind of, and you think that, I don't know, just a little more scandal, I think would have been fun.
Yeah, I feel like
Especially with her interest in Gabriel and Camille, and I don't know. You just think that that would have had more drama than it had.
yeah, I feel like the biggest drama actually of the season was probably when like that one guy was really snooty. Like that was
Hmm.
like, and then they like had a moment at the opera, like, or ballet. I mean, that was probably like the most dramatic thing that happened, where she was just like,
Yeah,
otherwise it
yeah.
wasn't really a lot of drama.
Yeah, she was. I mean, I think it'd be easy to criticize the show as being a little boring. If I mean, after a little while, I mean, how far can the escapism take you? You kind of need a little bit of like drama. You need a little bit of the to kind of draw you in because, yeah, she was dating this hipster guy, and she ends up realizing that he's a loser and she dumps him at the ballet because they're doing Swan Lake and that's not good enough for him. And that, yeah, you're right. That's about as high as the drama went, which isn't much because we're not invested in this character. We're not
Mm-hmm.
invested in this. It isn't much because we're not that invested in this character that she's been dating. You'd expect more drama between her and Camille, but
Yeah.
they're kind of BFFs and friends, and yet here's what she's doing. I don't know. I mean, they kind of left it on a cliffhanger, so I guess they're leaving us that that's their big like tantalizing thing for season two,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know. I feel like they could have, especially her going, like I said, going to her house, Camille's house, and being with her brother. That should have been more drama.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess they played it safe, it seems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. What did you think of Gabriel as a character?
Gabriel is a character. I mean, when we first were introduced to him and we didn't know he had a girlfriend, I was like, okay, cool. Like, this is going to be her big romance in Paris. How exciting. But then when we found out he had a girlfriend, I don't know. I just felt like this character that seemed too preoccupied with kind of keeping his own manhood, I guess, at times, because like there were,
Mm-hmm.
the reason he about his relationship with Camille is because her family had money to help him achieve his dream, and he didn't want to use that. And then he's in this relationship with her, but also like is clearly interested in Emily. And I don't like when characters do that. I just feel like sometimes it gets like too cliche, where it's like so you like Emily, you want to be with her, but then why are you with this person that you don't like? Then, like, I don't, what is really keeping you there? He already said the whole reason he didn't want to take the money from her family was because it was going to keep him committed to staying with her. You know, he was going to feel like obligated. And it's like, I don't know, like what the, I guess like the motivation there, be with the person you want to be with, then, you know, don't make it like
Yeah.
it, like it's like as if they're trying to make that the drama when like nobody, you know, Camille obviously is very secure in herself and didn't really have any insecurities about that. um so I think he had his moments. You know, I liked, you know, him in the working in the restaurant and being the chef. That was really fun to watch, and seeing all that delicious
Mm-hmm.
food that would come out.
Yeah.
um and it seems like they're setting it up for like him to maybe become a bigger character in the next season because he's going to be working with that publicity guy. um but I felt like his motivation was like a little like meh.
I mean, he's very bland. I mean, as far as a character, like he wasn't bad. He was fine,
Mm-hmm.
but uh he's just kind of a pretty face, I think. I mean, there we didn't get a whole lot of his sort of desires or what he wants aside from owning his own restaurant. That's pretty much about all that we got as far as his unique personality. And I mean, he's handsome, so you understand why Emily's interested in him. But, you know, she says that I can't imagine Paris without you. And I'm thinking,
But what did
really?
he really do? Yeah, like what were like I mean, yeah, he had a couple moments where she like used his shower, or, like he made eggs for her, but like otherwise they, well, I
Yeah.
guess he also did save her when she had that big issue with the restaurant and getting a
Yeah.
seat. Um but yeah, I think that there could have been like more connection.
Yeah.
Um and also the, like, just in general, I felt like a lot of the guys that she went after, like they didn't really, they all looked the same. They didn't really have any personality, I guess, other than that one guy who thought everything was lame.
Yeah.
um and I
Yeah.
really would have liked to see them use that as an opportunity to, like, if they're gonna have so many love interests, like bring in some different guys. Like, you're in Europe, I feel like there's, you know, a lot of countries around there that, you know, people, you know, a lot of different people go to Paris. Like maybe she could have met, you know, a lot of different kinds of men that would have been really interesting to have
Yeah.
her go out with and have relationships with.
I agree. Making her, I think that would have been an interesting way to make her sort of more modern because just getting kind of stuck in this love triangle and still trying to be BFFs with Camille, it wasn't all that exciting and it wasn't all that interesting. I don't know. I think that that could have been fun to see her sort of grow as a person by by experiencing all these different kind of personalities and different kinds of art and different kinds of I don't know experiences as opposed to the same. I mean, the cast is very small in this show
Mm-hmm.
for what it is. I thought it was interesting. The Vulture recap, they made an interesting observation about Emily, and they say our protagonist has not changed, learned, or grown at all, nor has she gotten worse in a way that would make her more interesting. She is totally static character. Meanwhile, everyone around her has only changed quotations insofar as anyone who started the season kind of side-eyeing her ended it by reluctantly accepting her. She has been
Mm-hmm.
rejected by exactly no one, and her behavior has not alienated a single soul, at least not for any meaningful length of time. And her actions have no consequences.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I would say that's accurate. You know, the, like, you know, I think the more you, like, the more we dive into it, like, I still enjoyed the show, but yeah, not a lot happened. She didn't really grow or change. I mean, this change that happened was that she went to Paris with a boyfriend and dumped him, or, you know, she went to Paris having a
Yeah.
boyfriend, dumped him, and then was single, living her life. Like, I think they could have added a lot more of like her experiencing Paris and like experiencing different cultures or backgrounds, or just, you know, like learning more and growing, because she did grow up in this Midwest town and came here. Anything, you know, maybe that's why I
Yeah.
think a character like an Ugly Betty sort of character could have been really great in this position because it could have been someone who really gets to blossom here. Instead, we're following a character who's already a beautiful model. Like, honestly, she's gorgeous.
Right. Yeah.
You know, like, she's perfect. And then she comes to this perfect city and she has a perfect life, achieving the things she wants to achieve and not really having many problems.
Yeah, because
Um,
most of her mistakes were just mistakes that were easily kind of solved, and like there were mistakes that actually like weren't really mistakes that I could, oh, Emily was right all along, and
mhm.
I think that that's a problem that a lot of shows, as we're trying to feature more sort of modern empowered female characters, that we're forgetting that it's okay for women to be flawed, and to have that it's okay for women to learn and to have behave badly at times. And I think that sometimes that we're sort of almost reticent to do that because, oh, it's a bad example, or it's a bad behavior. And but that's what human beings do. And so I don't think I would be quite as harsh as the article, but I do think that there's some truth to it, that she is basically the same at the beginning as she is at the end. It's not a kind of thing where you've seen a real sort of transformation, as you say, is in Ugly Betty. I mean, Ugly Betty kind of lays it on real thick with her wearing that poncho thing that she wears the
Yeah.
first episode. And you know, like, you're going to work at a fashion magazine. I mean, come on. But yeah, or I mean, just like I love Drop Dead Diva. I don't know if
Oh
you
my
ever.
gosh, I love Drop Dead Diva.
Okay.
Yes. Oh my gosh,
It's one
so
of my
good.
favorite shows ever. And that show did such a good job of like really laying on sort of the camp and being really funny, and also having all the characters, I think, grow a lot. I
Yes.
mean, is because Jane is experiencing this whole new body, this whole new person. And so it's a every day, everything is a new experience for her. And so I, you know, obviously that's unique to that show, but I don't know, I just think that there's some truth to allowing your characters to have sort of flaws, and have a little bit more fun, like, kind of with your characters.
Yeah, and I do think there's something to, I don't know, I feel like with these kinds of stories in like high fashion or magazines or social media, like a lot of these positions or these movies and TV shows that we see around these kind of characters, they're always the same, not always, but a majority of them are the same type of girl rising in these industries. You know, it's a beautiful skinny blonde girl or brunette girl, you know, that has a
Yeah.
great life already. And I would love to see more stories like women like Brooke Elliott and America
Mm-hmm.
Ferrera playing these roles, you know, like to see these types of women in these positions where, you know, it's just somebody different. Like, I mean, I want to have an Emily in Paris experience. Like, how cool
Yeah.
would that be? Like, you know, and I think that we limit kind of the types of women that we allow to see in these positions. Like, I would have watched Mindy in Paris, you know,
Yeah.
like that would have been a really cool show to watch. And I would just love to see more
Yeah,
diversity
because
in like
she
the types of
actually,
women.
in that little arc that we got with Mindy, she changed significantly as a character in just that little arc.
Hmm.
Because she had been hiding from this, you know, this past, and she'd been really nervous, and then that sort of empowering experience, and she sort of changed as a person when she sang for the first time since her disgrace on the Chinese American Idol. And so that, yeah, I agree. I actually think that her story was probably more
Yeah.
interesting, like a little bit more. If they cast somebody that's just like a little more everyday American kind of person, I think that might have given more room to grow
Hmm.
for the
I
character.
I agree with that. I think, like
Yeah.
we mentioned, like Lily Collins is beautiful. She's like a model. Like
Yeah.
she looked so great, and she really like. I felt like a lot of the times they kept saying like she doesn't fit into this atmosphere. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She 100%
Yeah,
fits into this atmosphere.
that's
This
right.
is like what she was made for. And so I think if we saw someone who was like the opposite of that, kind of flourishing, and that's something going back to Ugly Betty that I liked about that show was that Betty came into this fashion world and she didn't immediately become a supermodel. She slowly over time maybe, got her braces off or like got a different haircut or got new glasses, but she never she never
Yeah.
changed her core. It was more like just blossoming. And I think
Hmm.
this would have been a really great show to do something like that.
Yeah, I think that that's true. I think that that's true. The other thing too with the social media, I thought it was fun and I enjoyed it for the most part, but I think that they made it seem like social media is like super predictable and that you
Mm,
can just create this plan and if you have the right plan, then it's going to work. And that is just not, I mean, unless I'm completely confused about it, but in my experience at least, it is kind of a crapshoot. I mean, you put stuff out there, you think it will take off, and it does nothing. And then sometimes you'll just be doing something without really like thinking about it that much, and it'll be huge and it'll really take off. And I don't know. I feel like the unpredictability of social media could have kind of been an interesting factor to sort of create drama of like, oh, this thing that I didn't think would be anything is now huge, and this thing that we put all this work into, it's just completely fizzling. I think that could have been an interesting dynamic.
yeah, definitely. I think for me that, there were definitely some parts where the social media wasn't like 100%. There was some parts where I was like, oh, okay, like that's kind of accurate. Like when she was going to the influencer events and they're
Yeah,
like, oh, you have this following, here you go. Oh, you don't, like, things like that that I was kind of like, okay, like I could see that. Or some moments where she got an idea for something and they kind of ran with it and then it did, like the idea of them that commercial and kind of asking like sexy or sexist, like I could see that something like
yeah.
that going viral. But then there were other things like the sleeping outside, kind of like uh,
The installation.
installation. Like, I mean, that might be something fun for like a local area, but that's not something I would see going viral. That's something maybe like for
Hmm.
like Paris, like, oh, this is fun, let me go take a picture. But not something that would like have an impact like globally, like maybe the sexy versus sexist
Yeah,
commercial. Um, and going off of that, actually, I thought it was really cool to see her being in a situation like that commercial and being like, I don't think that we should do this. This seems problematic to me,
yeah,
because I think that that's something that does happen or sometimes doesn't happen and should happen in different situations where maybe someone did say like, hey, we shouldn't do this, and people are like, don't listen to them, we're just going to do it anyway, and then it blows up in everyone's face. Or people don't stand up and it's like, we should have said something because this actually doesn't make sense to do this like this. People will find a problem with it.
hmm,
And so I thought that was really empowering, um,
yeah.
to see her be like, I really feel strongly, and that they listened to her, or that they were able to turn it into something else, to make it work. Um,
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that was a nice moment, and I think that they had some. I think some of the stuff with the designer and her kind of her being sort of dismissed as this sort of silly woman, and then
mhm.
her kind of proving herself and her worth. I Those were nice moments for the character, and
Yeah.
were fun. And I think that, like you said, the moments where they're sort of eating in Paris, or
Mhm.
just the sort of the escapism, I think, was the strongest aspect of the show. And I
Mhm.
think maybe it's partly helped by just the fact that I'm in quarantine and
Yeah.
I'm like
Yeah.
good to see
The
uh,
bar is a little lower.
the bar is pretty low. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
Paris. Um,
I did
yeah,
want to mention, going back to the idea of her, being dismissed as like a silly woman and then, proving herself. I feel
yeah,
like that's, especially, well, I mean, she was working in more of an agency area, but I've just seen in social media, like, that there are people like that guy who, is not the person actually running the social media. He's just he's doing the campaign itself, or,
Mhm.
he's doing like the creative aspect that's like not actually how they're going to promote it. I've just seen people in social media not be taken seriously, and you have to keep being like, no, but like, we're an expert in this. This is why I'm telling you that we shouldn't do this, or
Yeah.
we should do this. And so that's why that really, I thought, resonated with me, and why I was like, oh, I really like that they're showing that, because that's like a reality where like it is hard for people to like be taken seriously, or be like, no, we need to do this, or we shouldn't do this, and like, this is why, because there's people that
Yeah.
don't do social media that will be like, well, but I think this, like, isn't it so easy? And it's like, well, it's not. That's
Yeah.
why,
That's so true.
there's experts in these areas.
Yeah, well, and she kind of would continually have to remind people, I have a master's degree in this. I am not an idiot. And
Yeah.
that's a very good point. And yeah, that's so true that people think, oh, you're just standing in front of a computer giving your opinion. I'm like, oh, you don't see the hours of note taking and thoughts and questions and all that stuff that goes into what you think is just standing in front of a camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're somehow easy job, plus all the graphics and the marketing and the promotion and trying to. I mean, it
Yeah.
is hard.
Well, what we're doing is multiple people's job at a corporate company. That's like
Right. Yeah.
many people, like a lot. And what I liked about the show was that they showed the corporate side, but they also showed the social, like the influencer side a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. And I feel
Yeah.
like I relate to that, because I also work in the corporate side of social, and in the the content creation, social media
Yeah.
influencer side. And so I was like, oh my god, I like totally relate to that, like everything that was going on there, basically. And I'm sure you
Yeah.
can as well. And it's just like, this is not like an easy thing. Like, it takes work. And you know
Mm-hmm.
there were moments where she really like when she met the owner of like the influencer company or whatever,
Yeah.
where that woman was like, oh, that girl's good, I want to talk to her. I was like, I really like those moments where they were like seeing that she was good at her job, basically. um
Yeah. Yeah, I liked those moments too. And I think if I was going to give some advice for season two, I would say, to expand upon those moments, and also to make to give her an ally in the office. I think would be really fun if she had one like friend. And then also I think making Celine more make her more of a villain, I think
mhm.
would be, or that, or make her more of a friend, like one or the other. Like, I just think make her more. And then also, I think that they should introduce a new love interest, to at least, even if they're going to stick with Gabriel. I think, I don't know. I think we get a new love interest that would challenge her a little bit more and be a little bit more. I think it'd be a nice thing for season two to get like a little bit more energy in that way.
Mhm. Mhm.
What
Yeah.
about you? What would you say to do for season two?
For season two, I would love to see them, like you said, continue to expand upon her like career, and build up more of the people in that office to be, like you said, more allies to her. Because I think that's what was missing, was having them have more of a presence. Like, there was people there
Yeah.
that sort of became allies to her, but they didn't have big enough roles to really feel like they made a big impact. Like the two guys that were in the
Yeah.
office, like they definitely became like kind of like a little duo that was like, they were supporting her eventually, but like on the side, because they didn't want to get in trouble. But I think that they didn't have big enough roles, so maybe if they
Yeah.
even just beef them up and make them her little friends, make it more obvious.
Yeah.
I also would love to see more from Mindy. Like, I would
Yeah.
love to see them basically just take the what they have, and maybe create more of an ensemble, and give everyone their moments, and not just necessarily have it only be focused on Emily. Give her more things though to challenge her. Maybe, like you mentioned, it's a love interest. If it is, I hope it's someone a little bit different, and not like, I don't know, all those guys looked exactly the same to me. I felt like it was kind of, we're just repeating the
Hmm.
same story. And I would love to see, like you said, something that really challenges her and is just different than what we've experienced.
Yeah.
Um,
I think a good way that you could bring in a new person is have her meet somebody at her French lessons
Oh
or to get like
yeah.
a French tutor. I think that could be a fun
Oh
opportunity.
yeah, that would be a really good one.
Hmm.
Yeah. And also, but there was still that other guy that I don't think she ever really dumped, even though she was like immediately going to be with Gabriel. The guy that worked, that was the nephew of the fashion designer.
Oh
I
yeah,
think he was
yeah.
still kind of in the picture. So maybe they'll bring up something between the three of them, like some kind of drama. Um, if they bring any drama,
Hmm.
any real drama in. And,
Yeah.
and Camille, maybe bring Camille back into, maybe they'll have like a whole like a square of drama, because since they didn't really do that this season, maybe they're leading to doing something like
Yeah.
that in season 2, since they have set up all this stuff with all these people.
Hmm.
um yeah.
But if you were going to give from 1 to 10, what would you give this first season?
I'd probably give it maybe like a 6.
Yeah, same with me. That's exactly what I was thinking. I think
Yeah.
it is frothy, it is fun, it's escapism, all the Paris stuff is really enjoyable. I think Lily Collins is really sweet and fun in the lead. But I think it could have been better, but it was still enjoyable enough
Yeah.
if you're, looking for something to watch on
Room to do
Netflix.
more,
Yeah.
definitely room to do more, which
Yeah.
could be good, because maybe it's like, okay, we've played a little bit safe
Hmm.
now, but people want to see a little bit more.
Hmm.
Let's really go throw everything to the wall in season
Yeah.
2.
Yeah. I mean, then that's pretty common. The first season of a show is just kind of testing the waters a
Yeah.
little bit.
I've
And
noticed it a lot with Netflix, actually, where like the
yeah.
first season's like okay, but then they set it up for like a really good season 2, and then season two's awesome, and then they cancel it.
Yeah,
I'm
that's true.
like, why? You gave me something I really wanted now.
Yeah. That's true. Very rarely do they give a season 4 on Netflix.
Mm.
So yeah, we'll enjoy our season 2. And hopefully if they're able to get it. I mean, I feel like actually they could have a ton of interesting plots with with the whole COVID and the whole thing and her, uh
Yeah.
I think that it could be really interesting if they embraced it. And I'm kind of curious to see how a lot of shows embrace COVID in 2021 and what we end up seeing as far
Yeah.
as I think it could be really interesting. So, well, I think this was really good. Let us know in the comments what you thought of the show. Did you like it? Did you agree with some of our critiques? Do you have additional critiques? Uh, did you think it had strengths that we didn't mention? Please let us know in the comments. And so thank you so much, Kristen, for coming on and talking
Thank
about this with
you.
me. I appreciate it. And where can people find you and your content?
Yeah, you can find me at Kmaldo on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. If you add a 1 at the end, on Instagram, that's KayMaldo. And I also recently launched a podcast called Pop Culture Planet. You can find that anywhere podcasts are streaming, and also on my YouTube channel. And hopefully very soon you'll see Rachel on there as well. So make sure to
Yeah.
check that out.
I'm very,
um,
very excited. We can hopefully be as good as social media influencers as Emily.
yes,
I'm gonna be
exactly.
inspired.
We will try. Thank you for having me on. This was so
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, it was really, really fun. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. And make sure you're following the Hallmarkies podcast. We are getting into gear. This week is our first preview show for the holidays. If you can believe it, it's coming up for a lifetime. So check that out. Also have our Patreon group. So that's a lot of fun. And we do our monthly watch-alongs with get the behind-the-scenes details of movies and shows. It's really fun, so check that out. We also have our merch store where you can get all kinds of fashion, so so check that out. And thanks again, Kristen, so much. And we'll talk to you all later. Bye, everyone.
Bye.